but I'm also not volunteering to take notes and facilitate because I can't multitask. So someone else can take over the note torch. Cool, thank you. All right, so let's kind of, I put some notes in the mic section of the document, just capturing what we talked about there around. But yeah, zooming back to the top, we talked about note taker, new faces. I don't think there's any new faces. Feel free to tell me if you think I'm wrong. Otherwise, we'll jump into outstanding RFCs. All right, we got a few. And we'll go from earliest first. So first up, the decoupled dependencies from Buildpacks. I know Forrest isn't here today. Don't see Jan. Has anyone else got any updates or any questions on this RFC? Okay. Multi-arch Buildpacks is still drafted. I don't see Jericho, so we can skip over that one. Graal VM, anything from the Java folks that you all want to talk about today? Okay. So now we have a couple of RFCs that I'm not sure if they were new this week or new last week. So we may have already talked about them. There should be a couple of pretty small, pretty simple like RFCs. The first one, and I'll talk about them because Forrest isn't here. So the first one is sort of just codifying the process of like how do we create new maintainer groups. This came out of a conversation a few weeks ago where we talked about like how do we want to manage the like UBI stuff, because it kind of cuts across a bunch of stacks and builders and Buildpacks and things. So again, apologies if we've already talked about this RFC, but in summary, this is basically trying to codify the process of like how do we create a new maintainer group, who has to approve it, that kind of thing. So if you have opinions on that, feel free to browse, weigh in. Any questions? Okay. For what it's worth, it does sound like there's a little bit of like debate about this, so might be worth weighing in if you think you might be affected, or especially if you're in the UBI area, because it might impact how we make these maintainer groups.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I mean, obviously, I was kind of one of the reasons this thing came into being in a way, but I'm just going to wait and see how this pans out because however it gets agreed at the end, we'll figure something out, and I'm just waiting to see how that rolls through at the end.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and I don't think I have no concerns about our ability to actually figure out how to create maintainers for UBI work. I think this is just going to impact sort of like how we get to that end state and what that means going forward.
Yep.
Okay, next up, another RFC from Forrest, standardizing the dependency metadata format for the Paketo Buildpacks. I don't know why I did that. Sorry. Let's do this instead. So this RFC is sort of trying to look at the existing metadata dependencies that we put in our Buildpack TOML and trying to sort of standardize around some things that we think should be present for all Buildpacks. Currently, there's no standardization, there's no spec for this, and we have a couple of different like flavors depending on who wrote the Buildpacks and when they were created and such. So this RFC is just trying to like make it a little bit more formal, make it a little bit more of a sort of these fields are required, these fields are optional, this is what they look like if they're present, that kind of thing. Any questions or concerns about this RFC? Okay. And the last one I'm pretty sure is new this week. I actually don't know this one, so we'll just kind of look at it real quick. Update accepted versus implemented RFCs. Oh, I think this is just Jan. Like, yeah, this is not an RFC. This is a pull request to the text of the repo. So I'm not going to go through that. Steering group committee can kind of take a look at that asynchronously. Before I leave the RFC section, any other questions or concerns, comments? All right. Bringing us to upstream CMB updates, questions. Anyone got anything here? Okay. Project update. I have one. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say no update per se, but um, we'll try and do a tiny builder for, I mean, a tiny builder that would be a dual arch. So that has been requested recently, as you know. And yeah, we'll try to give more attention to that. And Daniel indicated that the shortest path to that would be to, yeah, to actually work against the uh, tiny builder. That shouldn't be too hard apparently. So fingers crossed we get the time now to do that.
Yeah. So the couple of extra bits of context here. So what Anthony's referring to is the Spring community reaching out, I think this week. And Spring Boot uses or can use Buildpacks. I'm not sure of the details, but they a lot of the Spring community likes to use for either local development or cloud development. Obviously, we don't support 64 yet, and so there's like some feedback there that would be a great thing to support. Obviously, it's already on our roadmap, so it's not new feedback, but it's more voices weighing in the conversation. And then the other part of this is we talked about this in working group probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we had a pretty good conversation about like how do we want to make progress on ARM, given that we learned. So when we released ARM64 on the tiny stack, and the stack itself has dual arch support at this point, but the rest of the build packs and builders don't. That actually is like a breaking change that we didn't really realize. If you pull that image down, or if you use the builder on an ARM host, it will try and use that specifically on Docker. I don't know if this is true for other container engines, but Docker will pull down the ARM stack, but the AMD 64 build packs, and that's just not going to work because it doesn't allow you to do emulation for half of it and not the other half. So we didn't realize this was kind of a breaking change, at least for the local pack Docker combination. And so we talked about having getting to sort of the minimal working state as fast as possible. So dropping sort of the desire to integration test everything, and dropping the desire on the stack side to, for example, rebuild when there's a new ARM package versus an AMD package. So that was sort of a conversation we already had. There's also a Slack thread, pretty robust Slack thread about this. And TLDR, right, is that we just want to get through this as fast as possible so that there's a tiny builder with Java, and I think it's Golang is the other supported language that has end-to-end support for the ARM64 architecture, which will unblock the Spring folks. And I guess if there was any Golang folks, they would unblock them, but we don't have any feedback from that community. That was a lot. So any questions, anything I can clarify? Okay, cool. And then I had another really tiny update, no pun intended, which is that on the Golang side, we just merged a PR. So the next release will have this feature to sort of support the static stack out of the box. So previously, Golang Buildpack works with the static stack, but you have to set some flags using Dash-E, whatever. We just kind of tightened up that user experience a little bit, so it will detect if you're running on the static stack and set the appropriate flags, basically like CGO enabled 0 and build mode back to default rather than PIE, which is what we default to on other stacks. Not a lot of complexity there, but it should improve the user experience for anyone building statically linked Golang applications. Any other project updates? Cool. And then any other open mic questions, discussion topics, free form conversation?
I would like to, we try to test Buildpackless and UBNH extension against all the integration tests of any Buildpack related. So, if you have time to have a look on a pull request on Node Start, it would be helpful because this is what actually we're planning to follow in any Buildpack related repo. I hope I was clear. I don't know. If you can ask me whatever.
Yeah, so just to clarify, sounds like there's a pull request on node start that you're looking for feedback on, not just for
Yeah.
node itself, but also because if we like this pattern, we're going to use this pattern across like
Exactly.
other languages. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, we can start with the node maintainers, and then we'll also probably want to pull in just some other eyes from other language families because it will impact, or because this pattern will be cross-cutting.
Mhm.
Do you have a link to that we could paste in this document?
Oh yeah, 1 second. I paste it on the chat. Oh, I can paste it on the document, whatever you wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions, conversation topics? Okay, cool. Then I think that concludes this week's meeting. Thanks, Ram, and thanks everyone else. See you later.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.